Hi there again, it's Mauricio, CCSD. Just a friendly reminder to please mute yourselves. And once Dr. Jara hops on, you'll be able to hover over his picture, hit the pin, and that will make him full screen. So it's just a friendly reminder. Again, he'll be starting about 1 o'clock, make his remarks, and then he'll be able to take questions. I'll be calling each news outlet just so we don't have to talk over each other. Eating some food. Hi, John.
How's it going?
Good, good, good.
Excellent. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, man. Just a friendly reminder, once Dr. Jara hops on, if you hover over his picture, there's a little pin that'll make him full screen.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you.
All right, folks, we'll be starting in a couple minutes. Just a friendly reminder to mute yourselves if you're not already muted. We ask you not to live stream just so we don't confuse the public where they think we're having a meeting without them. This is simply just immediate availability to be able to have you ask questions. And then just be sure to record on your end. I'll be recording on my end as well, just as a backup. So you'll make some remarks, and then I'll just go down the list to give you folks an opportunity to ask questions directly. Thanks so much. All right, great. Good afternoon, folks. We'll be starting in just less than a minute. Good afternoon, Dr. Jara. Hope you're doing well. So yeah, we'll give you guys all about 30 seconds to figure out any other technical matters you need to deal with, and then Dr. Jara will be able to discuss with you the proposed reopening school plan presented at last night's board meeting. So we'll be starting in just a few seconds. Once again, we ask you to just mute yourselves. I'll be able to go down the list of media outlets here to give you an opportunity to ask questions. I'll be recording on my end just as a backup. For those of you guys just joining us, and ladies, please kindly mute yourselves. Dr. Jara, good afternoon. How are you today? Be sure to unmute yourself, Dr. Jara.
I was just going to say, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you now.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So yeah, all our wonderful media partners are here, and I know you're here to discuss the proposed reopening schools plan discussed at last night's meeting. So by all means, we'll have Dr. Jara make his remarks, and then I will open it up to questions. Dr. Jara.
Perfect. Thank you, Mauricio. But first of all, let me just thank you for jumping on a call here with me on short notice. Following the presentation last night and moving forward, hopefully and potentially to a July 9th, which is this Thursday, for a formal vote. As I've mentioned before, we're still waiting on decisions from the executive branch on budget. I know that special session is going to kick off this week. Looking forward to our conversation there. The proposed plan, as presented yesterday, we had some very detailed information that was shared with the board with some follow-up questions, and the team this morning will be addressing some of those questions for the future meeting on this Thursday. One of the things that I wanted to make very clear that the state is requiring that we submit a blended plan, a distance education plan for the board. And, so part of what we want to make sure that we comply with the state directives under Nevada's phase 2 plan. Ideally, not where I want to be. Ideally, I would love to, have school in session for all our children and our teachers. But unfortunately, we don't have the ability to do that. And we must comply with the directive from the governor's office and the State Department. So we've, finalized some things. We'll be ready, and hopefully we'll get a positive vote on where we are, that we can then submit our plan for the state. One of the things that I'll also like to just remind everybody is that it is too late. This has been, we've been waiting and waiting and waiting. We have to move forward. We're a little further along here, but we've had to look at the CDC guidelines and national data to make some decisions, as we have been working diligently to make sure that we find ways to get some face-to-face instruction for our students. Unfortunately, due to the classroom space and the overcrowded classrooms, we can only fit about 18 students, as we again continue to share with the board. The best plan that we can think of following our social distance guidelines, and finally the requirements that are set before the state, is that this is the best approach that we can provide education for our kids. It's not ideal, it's not what I want, but under the guidelines that we were given, this is what we have to do. So thank you for your time, and I'm here to answer any of your questions. And
Thanks so much, Dr. Jara.
It's good to see everybody.
I'll start with current media today. We'll start with Alex with the Review Journal.
Well, thank you so much. I was just wondering, Dr. Jara, what you thought of the governor's budget reduction plan, and will it affect any of CCSD's reopening plans, which I think we did say that if there are reductions, it might change things.
Yeah, thank you, Alex. We were looking at that. I know the team, the CFO, and the team is looking at what the budget reductions. I know we've worked and collaborated with the State Department. At least we have some numbers now that we can continue to plan. One of the things that strike me is as we're looking, potentially we're planning to use our CARE Act dollars for some of the things in the budget hole, as I mentioned earlier in the process. But as you see in our reopening plan, we're using the CARE Act federal money for us to look at our Chromebook, our connectivity, some of the most immediate challenges that we're facing today for our students so we can open up our schools safely.
Thank you.
Jackie with the Nevada Independent, are you on the line? The Las Vegas Sun, Sarah?
Yeah, I'm here. Hi, Dr. Jara. So I'm wondering, I've heard that the 2015 capital infrastructure improvement bond can't be used for technology, but one of the biggest issues being discussed right now is the digital divide. Yvette Williams on the Bond Oversight Committee said that a lot of the money had gone to technology in the past from that bond. She used a specific example of one of the technology academies, I think. So I was just wondering if that bond could be used for technology at all, or if it's just like maintenance and building new schools.
Yeah, no, Sarah. So first of all, let me just say that some of the bond money can, and it's going to, part of the plan that we have in place, it would be for digital infrastructure in our buildings that we can use, but we cannot use the bond funds to give Chromebooks and some of the others as required within the community for connectivity. We are using some of the dollars for our building infrastructure within our schools.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Channel 3, John Trainer.
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Jara. Wanted your thoughts on what Betsy DeVos has said, as well as President Trump, about digital distance learning and having that as a plan. Betsy DeVos obviously saying a choice of 2 days per week in the classroom is not a choice at all. Distance learning last spring was a disaster. President Trump saying it is not a health decision, it's a political decision to get done. No support from the feds on this kind of plan.
Yeah, well, didn't expect any there, John. I think one of the things that we're looking at, to be honest with you, when you're running schools up and where you're trying to open up a school system, I don't disagree that the distance education that we provided was high quality. When you look at what we had to do in emergency from the lack of funding that the state and even the federal investment, what we're doing here is a solid plan, but it's not ideal. It's not where I want to be. When you look at where we're going, it's the best case scenario given the requirements that we have from the Nevada's path forward. One of the things that I can tell you in previous administrations, when the federal funding has come through, there's been a huge investment in student and K-12 education that we are not seeing now today.
But how do you then increase that quality? Is there a plan to make sure this distance learning, are you pooling those activities from somewhere, those lessons plans from somewhere?
Yes, we are, John, and thanks for the follow-up. One of the things that when we look at this plan and the 10 days that we're providing our teachers before the children get in here is for professional learning to improve and to provide that opportunity for teachers. We already have within our Nevada Learning and some of our classroom lessons on Canvas. And I think the Wednesday is also so important for us, for our teachers, to really, get some of that PLC and that continued improvement in the classroom instruction. So the plan that we have gives us that opportunity to improve the practice for our students.
Thanks so much, John. I'll go back to Jackie Valley. I think she's having technical issues, but Dr. Jara, Jackie's question is, what will the district do if the board does not approve the existing plan Thursday?
Well, I mean, look, I feel confident that we're going to be able to answer some of the board's questions. The team met this morning. We're in a meeting, looking at answering the questions. So, the challenge becomes if we don't have a plan, submitted to the state board, to the state superintendent, we have 20 days before we can open up schools. The challenge then becomes, I was just meeting with a COO in our transportation. We have to start routing our buses. We have to start moving forward. We've been on this for months. And I think, I believe that we'll answer the questions that the board had last night, and hopefully we'll get moving on to the next steps. I have faith that our building principals, who are waiting on some of the final details, that we'll be able to start planning some of the logistical things that they have to in a day-to-day. I'm moving forward and to hopefully get some final answers to the board by this Thursday.
Were you there, Jackie? Did you have a follow-up question? All right, we'll try you again in just a little bit. I believe we have Les with Channel 5. Channel 5. We'll come back to Channel 5. Kristen Drummond, Channel 8.
Hi, Dr. Jara. Can you hear me?
I can. How are you?
Doing well. Couple questions. CCEA releasing a statement today saying it's either go 5 days a week, all distance, or 5 days a week in the classroom. How do you respond to the teachers union saying, let's go with either all in the classroom or not at all?
I think it's my response would be, ideally that's what I'd like to go. Unfortunately, with our class sizes, with our building space, we can't do that. I think it would be, and then actually with the funding, there's opportunity for us to be able to do that if we had all the right funding, and then parents making the right choice. When I say the right choice, I think it's really depending on the cohort and the model that they would like. If we had, I would say X amount of students where over 20, 30% selecting that distance education, then we would be able to provide the 5 day of instruction. I understand the choice. And I think one of the things that the board that we heard that we're going to bring back to the board on Thursday is what, potentially as a really good option that we know we have for that distance education, so we can get onto a 5 day classroom face-to-face. Ideally, that's where I want to be. Unfortunately, the lack of funding in K-12 education does not allow us, because we have overcrowded classrooms, we don't have enough space, and I think this is important for us to be able to address. Hopefully, other folks have heard that up in the state legislature.
But what about some of the trustees brought this up last night, and I know some teachers are talking about, why not allow the individual schools, principals, the SOT teams, to decide what is best for their individual campuses, especially in those rural communities?
Yeah, I don't think that's what I'm saying. What I'm saying here, we need a shell. I said this last night. We need a shell. We need to build the house, and then every school will then look at that shell. And I think this is what we're providing. And every school will then start looking at, depending on, because you may have some schools that 75% of the kids may want to do distance education. We'll put 25% of the other kids can come 5 days, as long as they meet the social distance guideline. I think that's what we're sharing. We shared with the board. So there will be opportunity to look at some of those things. But I also want to go back to, when we really look at, when we closed and closed our schools, the inequities that we found, that we didn't have a consistent message, we didn't have a consistent plan. We do now. I think that's the difference, where we'll have that consistent message, and then principals will be able to make decisions at their school level to meet the needs of their community. And I think, to your point on the rural communities, they're smaller schools anyways. There's opportunity there that the kids there will be able to go 5 days a week. One of the things that I'll tell you, once you select that cohort C, you can go back in the middle of the year, because then you can fill up and really have an impact on the social distancing.
Thanks so much, Kristen. I'll try Channel 5 again. Channel 5. All right, we'll come back to you, Channel 5. Channel 13, is there someone on the line? Channel 5, can you talk? Channel 5?
Hello, can you hear us?
We can hear you now. Yes, please, Les, go ahead, ask your question.
Thank you. Dr. Jara, the teachers union doesn't seem to be too happy about what was unveiled last night. Your thoughts on that?
Well, I think I understand the safety concerns for all our educators, and I think we've been working together to find solutions to provide safety. I would say a net for our educators. But we're both in alignment that that the state has to fund some of the programs that they're looking for, not something that we have locally. I wouldn't say that they're not too happy with the plan. I think they have some concerns of the funding, and then how it was funded locally from the state leadership.
And then a follow-up question for you, Dr. Jara. Education Secretary DeVos said that basically that she rejects this idea of, a couple of days a week in school and a couple of days a week learning from home. They want all the kids to be back in classes. What if we can't get past that?
Well, as I said earlier, when you really look at the impact and the safety and the wellness of our children, that's the only way that I can do that, listening to the experts. I would tell you, listening to the health experts is, to me, the priority for us and for my children and my teachers. I can't speak for the secretary and I can't speak for the president, but as I continue to listen to the experts and follow the lead of the health experts, this is the best way possible. It's not ideal. And I think the federal government needs to step in and provide funding opportunities and really leeway for our K-12 public schools, as they haven't done that in the past.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Channel 13, do you have a question? Channel 13. All right, we'll come back to you. Abel, Telemundo, ¿tienes una pregunta?
Sí, tengo. Hola, ¿cómo está, señor?
¿Cómo está?
Bien, bien. Pues, obviamente de lo que ha estado hablando, pero ahora un poquito en español. ¿Cómo vamos hasta ahorita con este plan de regresar las clases? ¿Y qué es lo que se va a decidir? ¿Cuándo se decidiría esto?
Sí, el 9 de julio, el jueves, vamos a traerlo a la Junta Escolar para la decisión. Todavía tenemos que responderle a los profesores, a la Junta Escolar, unas preguntas de cómo vamos a hacer el Día de los Profesores. Hay unas preguntas que tienen para la seguridad y eso es lo que le vamos a presentar a la Junta Escolar el jueves, ojalá para que pase, para poder... para ver cómo vamos a estar con los padres, a hablar con los padres para que ellos nos digan. La educación a distancia es uno de lo mejor que puede, y otro 2 días a la semana. Así que todavía estamos trabajando y el jueves vamos a hacer la última decisión.
Uno de mis productores aquí me pregunta, ¿qué va a pasar con estudiantes que solo hablan español, que ya que los tenían en algunas clases separadas?
Sí, eso es algo que vamos a trabajar, como lo presentamos anoche. El departamento de bilingüe de English Language Learners tiene un programa y vamos a tener maneras para ayudar a los niños y a los padres también.
¿Cuál es el mayor reto que enfrentan ahorita en este plan de regresar a tener clases en las escuelas?
Es los espacios que tenemos. No tenemos suficiente espacio en las clases en las escuelas, y eso es uno de los problemas que tenemos ahora mismo.
¿Y las mayores dudas, las dudas que más le presentan a ustedes los padres u otros profesores?
El presupuesto del departamento del gobernador.
Okay. ¿Algo más que usted guste mencionar?
No, eso es todo. Muchas gracias, Nabel.
Gracias a usted por su tiempo.
Univisión, Alex, ¿tienes una pregunta?
Doctor Jara, ¿me escucha ahí?
Sí, ¿cómo estás?
Muy bien, doctor. Bueno, mi pregunta sería relacionada al release que envió hoy CCA, el Sindicato de Maestros. Comenzar por eso. ¿Cuál sería su mensaje a ese mensaje que ellos mandaron?
Bueno, eso es lo que mandaron, le mandaron lo sacaron para el gobernador para que no corte el presupuesto de la educación, que todavía nos falta mucho dinero para poder abrir las escuelas seguramente para que los profesores y los estudiantes tengan el tiempo para estudiar, aprender al frente de los niños.
Ellos piden 5 días a la semana de clases. ¿Qué tan factible es esto? Es lo mismo que pide también la secretaria de Educación, Betsy DeVos. Entonces, ¿cuál es su mensaje para la gente que apoya este tipo de ideas?
Sí, ojalá yo pudiera abrir las escuelas 5 días para los niños, pero la realidad es que no tenemos el espacio, no hemos dado el dinero presupuesto para las escuelas hace muchos años y no tenemos los espacios, pero yo sé que tener el choice para poder hacer eso, ojalá sería, pero no, en este momento no se puede hacer.
Finalmente, doctor Jara, un mensaje para los padres que tienen esa preocupación. Muchos no tienen con quién dejar a sus hijos 3 días a la semana en casa, tienen que trabajar. ¿Cuál es su mensaje para ellos?
Sí, que bueno, vamos a tener dos maneras de hacerlo, el hybrid model, el blended model, 2, 3 días en la casa o el de educación distancia, que ojalá la Secretaría de Educación mande dinero a las escuelas para poder hacer el distance education y también para poder abrir las escuelas 5 veces al día, pero nos falta el presupuesto, así que, pero diga a los padres que tengan y se comuniquen con las escuelas.
Perfecto.
Gracias.
Hey, folks, we have a few minutes left, so I'm just going to go down the list real fast for one final question from each of you. If you could please be ready. We'll start with Alex with the RJ.
Sure, thank you so much. I was just wondering what, if any, changes are still under consideration that we might see on Thursday.
Yeah, we're looking at, Alex, that's a great preview, but we're looking at some different things that the board has requested that we will be presenting to the board. I think the teacher day, some of the schedule, the instructional models, we're looking at different recommendations that we received, and then give more details on that Wednesday for the board at this point. I think the social distancing guidelines that we're receiving limit too many changes at this point.
Got it, thanks so much.
Nevada Independent, Jackie, are you on the line? The Las Vegas Sun, Sarah, do you have one final question?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Jara, for doing this. And my question is the supply and demand issue with the Chromebooks. Has anyone identified possible solutions, or where are you with the planning for that?
Yeah, no, we're working hard. As soon as we get the grants approved on Thursday, so we can move forward and start placing orders. That's a concern it's a real concern on Chrome's the supply and demand chain at this point. But we're working hard to get it done so we can distribute and get them onto our hands of our kids as soon as possible.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. I have one question from Jackie, Dr. Jara. She asks, will you be giving schools some autonomy in how to handle certain aspects of logistics and such?
Yeah, as schools will do. I mean, look, we're going to stay to the shell of the schedule. Here are some of the options and how schools make some decisions, as they do regularly. I think it's not going to be that stringent, Jackie. So they will have some decision making, and they just said, I get messages from principals as soon as we're ready to go to work, superintendent. So they're encouraged. They'll have some flexibility to be able to do some things, but obviously, we'll give them the guidelines. The health and wellness of the kids and the staff is going to be priority, something that we can't, we cannot relax on.
Thanks so much. Channel 3, John Janet.
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Jara. Related to the Chromebooks, back in May, there was a presentation to the board about how many Chromebooks were handed out to students. There was a struggle getting them out, and it looked like you had an excess of Chromebooks that you had failed to get out to students. I wonder if that plays a role here. And also, any advice to parents who might now be faced with the reality of not being able to take off work and having their kid at home?
Yeah, John, great question. So we release and distribute 111,000. We're continuing to do that now from a central depot up in our schools. We're continuing to communicate with parents. I made it a priority that once our principals come back July 22nd, we still have some devices in our hands over schools. We're going to get those as soon as possible before the start of the school year. So we'll get those out. And we presented to the board yesterday. That's going to be a priority when we get back. To our parents, let us know, be honest, what concerns you about distance education. It's going to be different. It's not going to be the same as it was when we closed. That was more, and I heard that last night. It was more of an emergency. This is really, we're going to provide some really good instruction, hands-on for our students. We're going to provide some opportunity for our parents as well, some professional learning. We got to help them. So we're, just communicate with our school principals so we can help you.
Thanks so much. Channel 5, Les.
Yeah, Dr. Jara, we've seen an increase in the number of COVID-19 cases here in the last couple of weeks. Is there a number that, if it continues to grow, that you might have to actually force or cause for a delay of the school year to start?
So as I mentioned last night, we'll take the cue from the governor's office and the health experts. So at this point, we have to submit a plan to the board. But if we stay in phase 2 or go back in phase 1, obviously, then we'll have to go into distance education. And this is why this plan gives us and allows us to transition or pivot from one or the other per school and different things, depending on what the health of the community looks like.
Thanks so much. Kristen, Channel 8.
Thank you so much again, Dr. Jara. In regards to the Chromebooks, the broadband issue, Wi-Fi, I know that was discussed last night, and trying to outfit everyone with a hotspot that would cost, I believe, was it $20-something million? So if you can get Chromebooks in the hands of students, and I think the number was 30-something% of students at CCSD don't have a Wi-Fi or connectivity, how do you even do distance learning? You have all these Chromebooks out there, if you can get them, how do you continue this distance education? 3 days a week.
Yeah, there's different ways. Obviously the homework assignment will have to be done. You can download them onto the desktop, do the work at home, and then when you get to a hotspot or a connectivity, you can send them, and you can, obviously communicate that through teachers. I mean, there's ways that can be done. It's not ideal. It's not the best way. But I'll tell you this, there's some issues, that the connectivity into the homes, that's a community issue. And I was on the phone this morning. We had an 8 o'clock with Cox Communication and finding ways to partner with them to help us solve this issue for our families. It's real, but that's an entire state challenge, which I think is what CCA put out in their release. The state leadership has to also find ways to support us here as well.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Channel 13. Is there someone out there? All right. Telemundo, Abel, one quick question.
No, I'm fine right now. Thank you very much.
Alex, Univision.
Sí, doctor Jara, simplemente un par de cositas. ¿Cuánto es el tope o el límite de estudiantes que vamos a tener por salón de clase? ¿Y cómo se va a solucionar el tema de la entrega de las computadoras o los Chromebooks?
Sí, todavía no podemos tener más en un salón de 900 square feet, no podemos tener más de 18 estudiantes. Ahora, eso es lo que tenemos ahora. Y los Chromebooks todavía tenemos en el inventario en las escuelas, y eso es lo que vamos a estar distribuyendo a los estudiantes al final de julio, en el empiezo de agosto.
Thank you so much, everyone, for attending today's media availability. Don't forget the board meeting is Thursday, starting at 3 p.m., but this agenda item is scheduled to begin at 6 p.m. Thanks so much.
Thank you. We'll see you Friday. Take care. Bye-bye.